Shri Krishna. Patita pavana hetu tava avatara mosama patita prabhu tapaive ara. Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balokana Koro Ami Boro Dukhi. Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Bale Pai Caitanya Nitai. Swarup Sanatana Rupa Raghunatha Bhatta Juga Shri Jivaha Prabhu Lokhanatha. Doya Guru Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Ramachandra Sangamange Narottama Dasa. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya, Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Shri Radha Govardhana Bhagwan Ki, Jai Shri Krishna Balram Bhagwan Ki, Giriraj Maharaj Ki, Narsinghadev Bhagwan Ki, Gaura Nitai Bhagwan Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Reading from the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 17 today. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from chapter 17 of the Adi Lila, verses 270 to 271 today. Tumita Ishvara Bhata Sakshat Narayana Kripa Kari Kara Mora Samsara Mochana Tumita Ishvara Bhata Sakshat Narayana Kripa Kari Kara Mora Samsara Mochana Prabhus? Tumita Ishvara Bhata Sakshat Narayana Kripa Kari Kara Mora Samsara Mochana Tumita Ishvara Bhata Sakshat Narayana Kripa Kari Kara Mora Samsara Mochana Tumita Ishvara Bhata Sakshat Narayana Kripa Kari Kara Mora Samsara Mochana Tumita Ishvara Bhata Sakshat Narayana Kripa Kari Kara Mora Samsara Mochana Tumita Ishvara Bhata Sakshat Narayana Kripa Kari Kara Mora Samsara Mochana To me, you, Ta, certainly, Ishvara, the Lord, Bhata, Sakshat, directly, Narayana, the Supreme Lord Narayan, Kripakari, showing mercy, Kare, please do, Mora, my, Samsara, material life, Mochana, deliverance. Translation. Please read the translation with me. Repeat after me. Sir, You are directly Narayana. Therefore, please be merciful unto me. Deliver me from this material bondage. So, I'll read the next two verses and the purport associated with the last verse, 272. Then we'll discuss a few points. So you don't have to repeat this after me. Bharati kahena tumishwara antaryami yakarta se kariba swatantara nahi umi. Keshwa Bharati replied to the Lord, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul. I must do whatever you cause me to do. I am not independent of you." Eta bali Bharati Gosani Katoya Tegela Mahaprabhu Tahayai Sanyasa Karila. After saying this, Keshwa Bharati, the spiritual master, went back to his village, Katwa. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there and accepted the renounced order of life, sannyas. Purport. At the end of his 24th year, at the end of the fortnight of the waxing moon, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left Navadvip and crossed the river Ganges at a place known as Nidayara Ghat. Then he reached Kantaka Nagar or Katwa, where he accepted Ekadanda Sannyas according to the Sankarite system. Since Keshwa Bharati belonged to the Sankarite sect, he could not award the Vaishnava Sannyas order, whose members carry the three danda. Chandrasekhar Acharya assisted in the routine ceremonial work of the Lord's acceptance of sannyas. By the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kirtan was performed for the entire day, and at the end of the day, the Lord shaved off his hair. On the next day, he became a regular sannyasi with one rod, Ekadanda. From that day on, his name was Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Before that, he was known as Nimai Pandit. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the sannyas order, traveled all over the Radhadesh, the region where the Ganges River cannot be seen. Keshwa Bharati accompanied him for some distance. Om Jnanatimidantasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmaya Shri Gurave Namaha. So, today we are actually going to be talking about Lord Chaitanya taking sannyas, how he accepted the renounced order of life, and who his spiritual master, who his sannyas guru was. So, just the verse before this is that someone by the name of Keshwa Bharati, not Keshwa Kashmiri, not to be confused with Keshwa Kashmiri, who was the learned scholar that Lord Chaitanya had a debate with. This is Keshwa Bharati, who became the sannyas guru of Lord Chaitanya. So he came to visit the area, and so Lord Chaitanya invited him, Nimai Pandit invited him home to take prasadam at his place. And then he asked, after prasadam, Lord Chaitanya actually asked Keshwa Bharati, "Please deliver me from this material bondage. You are directly Narayan, please give me sannyas." And Keshwa Bharati replied, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I must do whatever you make me do. So I'm not independent of you." So then, Keshwa Bharati, he went back to his village, Katwa, and Lord Chaitanya also went with him and accepted sannyas over there. So a few points before from text 270 and 271, before we discuss the points in the purport of 272, is that, so Lord Chaitanya is saying to Keshwa Bharati that you are directly Narayan. So when we look into who Keshava Bharati actually is in the Lord's eternal pastimes, then he was Sandipani Muni. He was the teacher of Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya when they were in the Gurukul, Sandipani Muni. And in the Ganodesha Deepika also, this is the book that casts a light as to who these personalities are in eternal pastimes. His personality, his status is defined further. But basically he was the teacher, Sandipani Muni. And so in this pastime of Lord Chaitanya's, he became the initiating spiritual master. And when we look at all the things mentioned in the purport of 272, so a few things to note are that it was at the end of Lord Chaitanya's 24th year that he took sannyas. So 24, as we all can understand, is very young, and it's like the prime of youth. And Lord Chaitanya had a young wife at home, but he took sannyas. And why he did this is a few reasons, which have been explained earlier to this verse. And if I have time, I can get into that, but I think we probably won't have too much time. So it was at the end of the 24th year. It was at the end of the fortnight of the waxing moon. So the waxing moon is the bright fortnight, is Shukla, the Shukla fortnight, which is the bright fortnight, when the moon is getting bigger and bigger until it reaches full moon. So at the end of this fortnight, Lord Chaitanya left Navadvip and he crossed the river Ganges, and the place where he crossed is called Nida Yara Ghat. Then he reached Katwa, where he accepted Ekadanda sannyas. So if we have seen a sannyasi ourselves in the Hare Krishna movement, nowadays we don't really see them carrying their dandas around, their renounced sticks around, but and that's because they travel a lot, and it's cumbersome to carry the danda in the plane. So most of the time the initiation sannyas danda stays at one location. But if you've noticed a sannyas stick, or if you've seen pictures of sannyasis in the movement, you'll notice that there is a one long stick and then two little sticks tied up at the top, and three dandi. So that's three dandi. Three dandi means stick. So whereas Lord Chaitanya, he actually accepted sannyas, the sannyas mantra, from this guru, Keshava Bharati, who was a Mayavadi. He wasn't strictly in the Vaishnava philosophical school. And why this has happened, there's also deep reasons behind this. So the three dandis, what it signifies is that I'm renounced in my body, my mind, and my speech. So three things that I'm going to be using for the Lord's service. And later there is a later pastime, as we probably know, when Lord Nityananda actually ended up breaking the sannyastic of Lord Chaitanya. So the details of, and it's actually explained in much more detail in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, which I will read this pastime because this is what the main content of today's class is. So it's described that there were three people who were there with Lord Chaitanya as he took sannyas, and the main person who assisted with all the routine ceremonial work was Chandrasekharacharya. So what that means is, for example, when there's a yagya happening, then there's the setting up of the yagya pit, there's bringing all the right paraphernalia for it, bringing the items to be worshipped, for example, all those things. So in all these ceremonial tasks of all the different routine tasks that had to be done to accept sannyas, Chandrasekharacharya was the one assisting Lord Chaitanya. And it was Lord Chaitanya's order that kirtan was done for the whole day, and it was at the end of the day that the Lord shaved off his hair. He didn't do it himself. There was somebody who did it, and this I will talk about when I start reading from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. The next day he became a regular sannyasi with one rod, Ekadanda, and from that day on his name was Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Before that he was known as Nimai Pandit. So Sri Krishna Chaitanya, even, and actually the details are given that in the Mayavadi sannyas school there are 10 different names that a sannyasi can accept. Whereas Lord Chaitanya, he stuck with Chaitanya. He did not accept one of these names that are routinely given to sannyasis who take sannyas in the Mayavadi school. And again, there are reasons behind this, which as I begin to read the story in more detail, we will get into. So then, Lord Chaitanya, as a sannyasi, he traveled all over Radha Desh, and his sannyas guru, Keshava Bharati, accompanied him for some time. So when I was doing a bit of research about this, then I came across Srila Prabhupada's some of Srila Prabhupada's classes, and in order to try to understand why Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas from somebody who was not classified as a strict Vaishnava, but as a Mayavadi person. And Prabhupada, he says that in his discussion with his disciples, he says that it was more or less a technicality, more or less a formality that Lord Chaitanya took from this person only because he was around and because he was a sannyasi, and that it was only a sannyasi who could give the sannyas mantra. And so Prabhupada describes that even if Lord Chaitanya did not agree with the philosophy of his sannyas guru, he still took sannyas mantra from him, but actually, again in the details, Lord Chaitanya gave him the sannyas mantra first, before the guru said it to him. So in essence, Lord Chaitanya, as we know, is the spiritual master of the whole world. So in essence, he actually, gave the mantra to the guru before he took it from him. So Prabhupada says that if you are taking sannyas, and in Lord Chaitanya's case, Lord Chaitanya did not agree with the Mayavadi philosophy at all. In fact, the Mayavadi philosophy is the impersonal philosophy, whereby it's the concept of oneness is described, that if you die, the body dies, the soul dies, everything's finished. After you die, you end up going to the Brahma Jyoti, the impersonal effulgence. So that's the philosophy, the Mayavadi philosophy. And also they all address each other as Narayan. So this is another reason Lord Chaitanya said in verse 270 that you are Narayan himself, because in one way that is it's not entirely true, but we know that the super soul is sitting in everybody's heart. So then Prabhupada says that if one is accepting sannyas, it's okay. If you don't agree with the philosophy, it's a technicality just to get it done. It's more or less a ritual, get it done. However, if you are accepting a spiritual master, a guru, who is giving you the Gayatri mantra and the Hare Krishna Maha mantra, then you need to be on the same wavelength. Then you need to be following exactly in the footsteps and accepting the whole philosophy. So which is very important to note, because I'm not sure, but I don't think any of us sitting here are probably going to become sannyasis. But so taking initiation is which what everybody does, but taking sannyas, not very few do. So when we accept a spiritual master and take formal diksha, initiation, then we are told very strongly that we need to agree, we need to actually accept the philosophy, accept the teachings of the spiritual master. Whereas for the sannyas mantra, it's different. Okay, so I will read from the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat of Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, and this is from the Madhya Khanda, chapter 28. So there is a few pages here, the description of how Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, and you will see that these two books, the Caitanya Charitamrita and the Chaitanya Bhagavat, whatever is not explained in the Caitanya Charitamrita in detail, the author, Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, he actually says, go and read the Chaitanya Bhagavat, the details are there. So, this is how Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, and actually it's a pastime that Vaishnava devotees generally don't like to hear, because it's painful to actually, how Lord Chaitanya left Navadvip and left his mother and left all the devotees there. But at the same time, we understand that to deliver the whole world, Lord Chaitanya had to take the renounced order of life. So the title of this chapter is Sri Chaitanya Takes Sannyas. So I'll read, but I'll also elaborate a few points along the way. All glory to Sri Gauranga, Lord and husband of Sri Vishnu Priya Devi. Kindly cast your merciful glance upon the living entities. The Supreme Godhead Sri Vishwambhara engaged in incessant Sankirtana, experiencing immense happiness. No one knows the real purpose of the activities of the Supreme Lord. He is the absolute autocrat, and he does as he pleases. He was always absorbed in the ecstasy of Sankirtan in the company of the Vaishnavas. The devotees were also so enraptured by the continuous kirtan that they never considered, even for a moment, that their beloved Lord might leave them. These greatly fortunate devotees enjoyed pastimes with that Supreme Personality upon whom the personified Vedas constantly meditate. One day, Lord Sri Chaitanya decided to enter the sannyas order. So, Lord Chaitanya used to, as we know, do kirtan every night in Srivasagan with all the devotees, and then also after that all over Navadvip. And everybody immensely enjoyed these kirtans, and never for a minute did they think that Lord Chaitanya was going to leave them. And because this is a point I don't want to forget to mention, so before I go into the pastime more, so when we see Lord Chaitanya there on the altar along with Lord Nityananda, we are actually seeing him. He's being worshipped in his form as a garasta, not as a sannyasi. Because as a sannyasi, he shaved off his hair, he wasn't dressed opulently. So on the altar, Lord Chaitanya, we are worshipping him in the mood of a garasta. The next day, Lord Sri Chaitanya decided to enter the sannyas order. He revealed his decision in confidence to Nityananda Prabhu. He said to Sri Nityananda, "My dear Nityananda Goswami, what I am about to divulge to you may be repeated to only 5 others. Tomorrow is the day of Makara Sankranti, when the sun begins to travel in a northerly direction." So this is when the sun turns over from traveling in the southern hemisphere, traveling south to traveling north. And it's considered to be the auspicious 6 months of the year, whereas where a materialist leaves their body in these 6 months, it's considered to be more auspicious. For devotees leaving their body at any time, even when the sun is in the south and even at night time, all of that, the material considerations don't apply so much. So Lord Chaitanya, he took sannyas on the day of Makara Sankranti, and he said, "In the village of Katwania, Indrani, lives the exalted personality of Sri Keshava Bharati. It is from him that I will receive my sannyas. This is the degree of providence. The 5 persons who you must inform are my mother, Sri Gadadhar, Sri Brahmananda, Sri Chandrasekharacharya, and Sri Mukunda. Sri Nityananda then went to these 5 individuals separately and informed them in confidence about the Lord's decision. That entire day, Lord Chaitanya spent in performing Sankirtan with all his Vaishnava devotees. The Lord relished his noon prasadam, and later, in the early evening, he went to take darshan of the holy Ganges. There he offered obeisances to Ganga Devi, sat down on her banks for a while, and then returned home early. He sat in his house surrounded by his devotees, but none amongst them knew that the Lord was leaving the next day. For the moment, the devotees exulted in the association of the Supreme Lord. The Lord, with beautiful lotus petal eyes, sat decorated with flower garlands and sandalwood paste. As the Vaishnavas arrived one by one, they presented the Lord with flower garlands. Such was the magnetic potency of the Lord that it was simply inconceivable how a continuous stream of visitors from all directions kept pouring in, so much so that even Lord Brahma would be in difficulty to count them all. They came in, paid full obeisances, and fixed their eyes on the Lord's enchanting face with rapt attention. To each of the visitors, the Lord gave a garland from around his neck and instructed them all as follows. Go and praise the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. Chant his holy name, worship him, and sing his glories. Do not think of anything other than Krishna. If you have any love for me, then show it by chanting and singing. No other name, only the names of Krishna at all times. Remember and chant his holy name, whether asleep, awake, or eating. So this verse is very similar to a text from the Bhagavad Gita, whereby it is said, always remember Krishna, worship him, pay obeisances unto him, and that this way you will be Krishna conscious. So after instructing everyone in this manner, he ordered them to return to their homes. As one group of visitors left, another fresh group arrived. Most of them were unknown to each other, but that did not deter them from their ecstatic feelings. All the while, the Supreme Lord, more resplendent than many moons, sat there wreathed in countless flower garlands and decorated with sandalwood pulp. While leaving, the visitors loudly chanted the holy names, Hari, Hari, feeling most jubilant. They had received the Lord's grace. Just then, a green, tender gourd in hand, Sri Sridhar, walked into the Lord's house. Seeing this, Lord Sri Gaurasundar laughed and inquired, Sridhar, from where did you procure this gourd? So a green gourd, Lauki it's called. You know what a gourd is, just a vegetable. And this was one of Lord Chaitanya's favorite vegetables, Lauki. So the Lord thought to himself, tomorrow I am leaving, but I cannot refuse or waste Sridhar's gift. I will eat it tonight. The Supreme Lord is always prepared to satisfy his devotees. He is famous as Bhakta Vatsal. The Lord requested his mother to cook the gourd. Right at that moment, someone walked in with some milk and offered it to the Lord. The Lord was very pleased and said, This is wonderful. Now, Mother, you can prepare delicacy with milk and gourd. Mother Sachi was happy with this turn of events, and she went to cook with great satisfaction. The Supreme Lord of Vaikuntha is always willing to fulfill the desires of his devotees, for he is their loving guardian. The devotees remained late into the night and left when the Lord was about to take his evening meal. The Lord saw everyone off and sat down to eat. He relished his mother's cooking, washed his mouth, hands, and feet, and retired for the night to his quarters. The Supreme Lord called upon his mystic sleep, Yoga Nidra, while Srila Haridas and Srila Gadadhar lay down to rest close by. Sachimata knew the Lord was to leave at early dawn, so she could not sleep, but wept incessantly. A couple of hours before sunrise, the Lord woke up, and determining the auspicious time by the flow of breath from his nostrils, he prepared himself for the journey. Srila Haridas and Srila Gadadhar also woke up. Gadadhar said, I want to accompany you, to which the Lord replied, No one may accompany me to where I am going. I am always alone and independent. Such are my activities. But later we know that Gadadhar Pandit did go to Jagannath Puri as well. So Sachimata understood it was time for her son to leave home, so she waited, sitting at the door. Seeing his mother at the door, the Lord sat down next to her and held her hands. He tried to console her, saying, "You brought me up and took care of me in plentiful ways. I was educated." Oh, Srimati, you come a bit. Come here. Come and sit down.
Sachimata understood that it was time for her son to leave home, so she waited sitting at the door. Seeing his mother at the door, the Lord sat down next to her and held her hands. He tried to console her, saying, "You brought me up and took care of me in plentiful ways. I was educated and properly raised due to your endeavors. You never bothered for even a tiny bit of pleasure for yourself. But although since my birth you always made sure that I had the best of everything, moment to moment you increasingly showered me with your love and affection. Even in millions of lifetimes I will never be able to reciprocate your tender feelings. Life after life I will be in your debt, which only you by your grace can waive. Dear Mother, everyone in this creation is under the Supreme Lord's control. No one has the power to become independent of his control. The Lord alone arranges unions and separations. Who can fathom the depth of his mind and will? Whether I leave now or 10 days later, you should not lament. You should not have to worry about anything. I will take full care of you. This is my responsibility." Crossing his hand over his breast, he repeatedly assured his dear mother, "Your upkeep and well-being is my responsibility and mine alone." Sachimata silently heard everything her son said to her. She did not reply, but wept and wept. Sachimata, the universal mother, willed herself to become like Mother Earth, the symbol of patience. Who can understand the inconceivable eternal pastimes of the Supreme Lord? Sri Gaurasunda smeared his head with the dust of his mother's feet, circumambulated her and left. The divine hero of Vaikuntha left home to enter the renounced order to liberate all living entities. My dear brothers, respected readers, by hearing the narrations of the Supreme Lord taking sannyas, one is freed from all material bondage. As soon as the Lord left, Sachimata became almost inert and was unable to speak, as still as a statue. The rest of the devotees knew nothing of these developments. After completing their morning ablutions and rituals as was usual, they came to offer obeisances to the Lord, but found Sachimata sitting by the outside doorway of the house. The noble Srila Srivas was amongst the first to inquire, why do you sit by the doorway?" Almost inert, she at first remained silent, while tears flowed freely from her eyes. Finally, after a short while, she said, "My dear sons, listen, it is decreed in the scriptures that the possessions of the Supreme Lord Vishnu rightfully belong to his devotees, the Vaishnavas. Therefore, whatever items belong to my son are now yours. Take them, the Lord has left me." Realizing that the Lord had left home, the devotees were shocked and fell swooning to the ground. Overcome with grief, they wailed loudly in despair and pain. They held each other for comfort and babbled as if in delirium. "O Gopinath, why did this terrible night have to end? How will I live without seeing his moonlight face? What meaning is there to this sinful life? Why has the sky not come crashing down without prior warning?" They rolled on the ground, weeping and lamenting, unable to bear the searing pain of separation. As the other devotees began to arrive upon hearing of the Lord's departure, they all drowned in an ocean of sorrow. The loud wailing of the Vaishnavas enveloped the Lord's house. They cried, "We are destitute orphans, and our Lord and Master has left us to take up sannyas, leaving us drowning in an ocean of sorrow." The devotees wept uncontrollably, becoming almost unconscious with grief. They cried and loudly chanted, Hari, Hari. They felt that their life, possessions, family, etc. were worth nothing without the Lord's presence. They beat their breasts and struck their foreheads in utter despondency. Their beloved Lord had left without informing them. Thinking of this, they rolled on the ground, oblivious to the dust that covered them. The Lord's courtyard witnessed this heart-rending scene of the Vaishnavas writhing both within and without, in excruciating pain of separation. Srila Mukunda, Srila Murari, Srila Sridhar, Srila Gadhada, Srila Sri Gangadas, Srila Srivas, and his family members, Sri Acharya, Srila Haridas, and many others, were there sharing the grief that, unannounced, had suddenly struck them. The sound of their loud wailing echoed throughout Navadvip, and all the residents came running to see what had happened. Young and old men and women rushed to Nimai Pandit's house and loudly lamented that their beloved Lord had left them. However, the atheists were happy that the Lord had gone. Gradually, the devotees stopped crying, calmed themselves, and sat down encircling Sachimata. As the news spread of the Lord's departure from home to take up sannyas, people came from near and far. They were astonished to hear that Nimai Pandit had decided to enter the renounced order. In Nimai's house, they found everyone red-eyed, weeping, and Nimai absent. The entire weight and impact of the news of Nimai's leaving finally struck them, and even the heavy critics and atheists felt sad and full of genuine remorse. They said, "We are so sinful that we fail to recognize such an elevated personality. No longer shall we see his moon-like beautiful face. Let us put fire to our homes and leave town to become yogis. Why should we remain at home when the Lord himself has left Navadvip and gone away? What is our life worth to us? How are we still breathing?" The townspeople cried, lamenting, and fell swooning to the ground. Men, women, old and young were as if thrown into a well of acute grief. The Supreme Independent Lord Sri Gaurasundar knows which method to apply for liberating every particular person. He embraced the renounced order, intending to alleviate the suffering of all living beings and save them. Now we see that even though those who were envious and antagonistic towards the Lord were bitten by the poisonous snake of separation from the Lord. All glories and victory to the Supreme Lord of all living beings, Sri Gaurachandra, for he has made a wonderful plan to liberate all jiva souls. My dear readers, please listen attentively to the details of the Lord's receiving sannyas. By hearing this, one is freed from the bondage of infinite karmic reactions. After leaving home, Sri Gaurangasundar crossed to the other side of the Ganges and came to Kantaka Nagara, Katwa. The 5+ associates of whom he had previously intimated, Nityananda Prabhu, Srila Gadada, Sri Mukunda, Sri Chandrasekhar Acharya, and Sri Brahmananda. Then the Supreme Lord walked with the gait of a maddened lion, went with them to the place of Sri Keshava Bharati. The great and pious Sri Keshava Bharati observed the wonderful and effulgent form of the Lord, rushed to receive him with awe and respect. However, the Lord prostrated himself before Sri Bharati, and with folded palms prayed, "My dear sirs, please be kind to me. You are the Savior of fallen souls, an infinitely magnanimous personality. You are empowered to give Krishna the Lord of my heart, because the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chandra is always enthroned in your heart. I have no desire other than to become a servant of Sri Krishna, so kindly instruct me." By now the Lord's body was drenched in his own tears, which flowed freely due to his intense feelings of divine love. Roaring loudly like a lion, he began to dance. No sooner had the son of Mother Sachi started his dance than Sri Mukunda and the other devotees began to sing. Suddenly from nowhere, people by the scores started to pour in, attracted by the kirtan. When they saw the exquisite beauty of Sri Gaurasundar, they could not take their gaze away, but stared at his face, drinking in its divine beauty. Then a most incredible incident took place. The Supreme Lord danced and pirouetted in mid-air, spraying everyone with his incessant cascade of tears. The people were drenched, soaked to the skin. Men, women, and children were swathed in the tears of divine Krishna Prem. and they spontaneously chanted, Hari, Hari. Different ecstatic symptoms such as shivering, perspiration, swooning, etc. manifested upon the Lord's person in waves. When he fell to the ground like a stick, the assembled people were petrified. Then the Supreme Lord, proprietor of unlimited universes, in utter humility, holding straw between his teeth, went around to all present, begging his own service, the service of Shri Krishna. Seeing the Lord's humility and compassion, knowing he was about to enter the renounced order, those present began to weep, moved by intense grief. The women were thinking aloud, saying, How will his mother live through this? Who could understand the pain of her last night with Nimai at home? Who was that most fortunate maiden who had such an ocean of good qualities as her husband, but is now bereft? But what great misfortune did Providence snatch from him away from her? We are not his kin, merely outsiders, but even our hearts are pierced by the sharp arrows of grief, what to speak of his mother and wife. How will they survive this? Sri Caitanya, by his divine potency, had trapped everyone. All had become very attached to him, and in his absence they now wept along with the Vaishnavas and his family. After some time, Sri Vishambara stopped dancing, became composed, and sat down with all his associates around him. Sri Keshava Bharati was absorbed in an ocean of bliss after seeing the devotional sentiments displayed by the Lord, and he began to glorify Chaitanya, saying, The devotion that you have displayed, which I have seen with my own eyes, is a manifestation of the divine potency, which Sri Hari alone possesses. I am certain that you are the original spiritual master, the Guru of the universe. Hence no one is qualified to be your Guru. However, for the sole purpose of instructing the world, you have chosen me to become your Guru. This is my opinion. To this the Lord replied, Kindly do not put me into illusion and confuse me, but initiate me as your disciple, so that I may be blessed with servitorship to Shri Krishna. Speaking in this way, the Lord spent the whole night amongst his associates, steeped in the nectar of Krishna Katha. In the early hours of the next morning, the Lord of the universe ordered Sri Chandrasekhar Acharya, You are practiced in the performance of all the Vedic rituals, so I am selecting you as my representative. Make all necessary arrangements. Sri Chandrasekhar immediately busied himself in organizing the upcoming event. However, many of the ordinary and miraculous occurrences happened. Milk, yogurt, ghee, grains, betel leaf, sandalwood, flowers, sacred thread, cloth, etc. were bought in large quantities by people from distant villages without being asked. Unknown persons bought all varieties of foodstuffs in abundance. The activities and atmosphere were surcharged with fever and echoed with the loud chanting of the holy name. In fact, the only sound unclear was Hari, 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 Hari. Everyone was chanting in divine bliss. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the life of all, sat down to have his head shaved, including his Sika. As soon as the barber came and sat before the Lord, a huge cry and the sound of wailing rent the air. The poor barber, instead of taking the razor, sat with his head in his hands and wept. Nityananda Prabhu and the other Vaishnavas were inconsolable as they rolled in the dust, weeping bitterly. Even ordinary householders and materialistic people were deeply grief-stricken with tears-filled eyes. Some of them spoke out their minds in this matter. Why did Providence create this renounced order? The ladies wept and released long sighs. The demigods who were present incognito wept and wailed. The entire universe was grieving. Gauranga was able to generate Karuna's ras, the mellow of compassion, to such an extent that even the nearby stones and bricks and wood were melted from within. The Lord manifested all these pastimes simply to liberate the living entities. That everyone wept is the proof. Shri Gaurachandra could not remain patient due to ecstatic upsurges of spiritual emotion, accompanied by ecstatic symptoms such as weeping, shivering, caused by prema ras, divine love. Vishambara stood up loudly, chanting, Haribol, Haribol. Mukunda took the cue and began to sing while the Lord broke out in an ecstatic dance. Ecstatic emotions washed over the Lord's person, coming in waves as different symptoms of prema manifest. The The barber just sat there, unable to shave the Lord's Sika. Finally, at the end of the day, the shaving ceremony was conducted amidst jubilant prema ras. Therefore the Lord bathed in the holy Ganga, came back and took his seat at the designated place for the sannyas initiation rituals to begin. The Vedas declare the Supreme Lord Shri Gaurachandra to be the instructing spiritual master of everyone and everything. He conveyed this truth to Shri Keshava Bharati indirectly. The Lord said, "A great personality appeared in my dreams and uttered a sannyas mantra to me. Here it is now, and discern if this is a proper mantra or not." The Lord then whispered the mantra into the ears of Shri Bharati. Then with a simple stratagem, the Supreme Lord initiated Shri Bharati as his disciple. Shri Bharati was very astonished and impressed and said, "This is the most profound among soul mantras. By Shri Krishna's grace, may all its mysteries be revealed to you." And instructed by the Lord, Shri Bharati then repeated the same mantra into the ear of Lord Caitanya. The air exploded with the sound of loud chanting of the holy name from the assembled devotees, and publicly as the Lord of Vaikuntha was initiated into the sannyas order.
Thank you very much for listening, and sorry about that. So we see that this pastime of Lord Chaitanya is so nicely explained, how he took sannyas. And the main thing, there are a couple more things to say, but the main thing that is the Shruti Phal is said that whoever actually hears this pastime, they get free from material bondage, their material karmic reactions finish. So it's really interesting that that is the benediction of hearing this pastime. And the other thing that is said is that whoever hears this pastime, they also develop Krishna prema. So it's really amazing, these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. This is not, as we realize, not elaborated in the Caitanya Caritamrita, but in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Sorry, there's no time for questions or comments, but thank you very much for your association. And thank you, Shri Chaitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat ki jai, Gaura Nitai ki jai.